Hello, my name is Mark, and this is a short, informative video about my initiative to press that nobody is above the law. Now, in BC, I'm forming that as a party, and in order to get the message across this spring, we have a spring election this year, and there's no better way to get across a really revolutionary and evolutionary idea such as nobody is above the law. Now, this is a short, brief pamphlet. It's only 2 sides, and it really is in Thomas Paine classic style. Okay, Thomas Paine was an American revolutionary who did small pamphlets and handed them out, very similar to what I do, and he managed to start a revolution with this. And well, not alone, but what the hell. Pamphlets are an effective means of getting across simple messages that people can understand. Now, the reality is this concept of nobody is above the law is the foundation of what law and order should be based on. Okay, this pamphlet explains. It's got one side that's very generic, and it explains that about the fact that Jefferson warned about a departure from principle back in the 1770s when the Constitution was first founded. And basically, one of the great scholars of the time was a guy called John Locke. And he clearly understood this quirk in law that happened and built the criminal code to accommodate the hypocrisy in law created in 1559. The true foundation of what we call law and order was created in 1559 with the Act of Supremacy of 1559. And that one was where God was supreme and the Queen was under God, and she had to obey the laws as well. Prior to that, from 1538 to 1559, King Henry VIII, it said that the king was supreme and above the law. And prior to that, the Pope was supreme and infallible and above the law. And they constantly did things that were criminal. And they got away with it because they were above the law. And seems like no government around can work without this. Now, what happened in England was half the country died in civil war, okay, over the fact that the British people were just fed up of everyone in authority being above the law. And they went to war. I mean, it was a civil war that lasted about 100 years. It didn't quit with the Act of Supremacy being done, but a lot of war faction forces agreed that it was a very positive step in the right way. And no one is above the law is the foundation of law and order in the world, or at least those who are, the society and the law structure is built on no one is above the law. Now, Canada's rule of law is completely different from America's rule of law. But in America, the standard is in God we trust, which comes from the Act of Supremacy of 1559. And it also is the Respondeat Superior, which is their rule of law. It says there, in double brackets, no one is above the law. Now, the reality is in 1562, 3 years after the Act of Supremacy of 1559, the Queen passed a decree saying that Parliament was above her. Okay? And therefore, the people were supreme. Okay? Because Parliament represented the people. Okay? And actually, in 1562, that happened. And basically, it was a collusion with the banksters and the politicians to return to an order where the body called Parliament was above the law, and this was shared with a body called the banksters, who never have accepted that they are the laws apply to them. Okay, the bottom line is the great secret of the demise to democracy and law and order is that, as Jefferson said, one bad ruling will require another bad ruling that requires another bad ruling, and eventually we all become automatons of misery and suffering. Only, and the four-horse to this is public debt, and that would, and they'll throw us out of all the houses that we have, that our forefathers built, and we'll become slaves. Is the inevitable outcome of this bullshit departure of principle of these bodies could be interpreted as being above the law because they had to do under a necessity defense of that's the only way we know how to govern, man. Okay, now the reality is all of this wrongdoing was done so that eventually the system would collapse, pick itself up, and start all over again, which is a great American dream. Now, that great American dream can be fulfilled by the voice from the West, which is what I'm attempting to do with this message that has been a very deep, dark secret of Masons. Impossible to deny, okay? Masons have killed for revealing this secret in the past, okay? Masons have killed for people revealing much less secrets than blabbing about the fact that everybody right now, after 400 years of case precedent on case precedent on case precedent, has created the fact that we're run by corporations and we're nothing but respondent superior, and respondent superior is ruled on everyone and was actually the law of slavery. And bottom line is, it says no one is above the law. Now, if you change respondent superior to no body is above the law, we would return to the founding principles that made democracy the hottest ticket in the world, where people wanted it, because they really respect that if we lived in a society where no one is above the law, that we'd have justice. We'd have equality before and under the law, where we're all created equal. And this has gone to the wayside. One court ruling after another, after another, after another. And right now, there's this body called the police who actually think they're above the law and can beat our heads in at regular intervals and get away with it. Okay, there's these bodies that are beyond prosecution. And we actually vote the assholes that are in. A politician has a legitimate excuse that and it's repeated many times in politics, they say that they will be elected to make those tough economic decisions that need to be made. Well, tough economic decisions is, they're telling you flat out, they'll side with the economy every time and screw human rights, because those are the tough economic decisions that they're mentioning. And everybody's sucking up to the economy. You can't get elected unless you promote that you're going to create jobs and do all of this thing for the economy, and it's destroying society. It really is. Okay? Bottom line is, something has to give. People notice. People are awakening to the fact that everybody in power is above the law. And it's the deterioration of one word that happened back in 1559, where no one is above the law was changed 3 years later to Sometimes some bodies have to have the power as if they were above the law, because that's the only way these thugs know how to operate. Now, we are supposedly entering into our age of enlightenment, where people are actually educated and can get the fact that we have to return to a foundation of sanity. And that foundation of sanity and the returning back to a civil society can be done through the voice from the West crying out to the East, and create a spring uprising, because this election is in the spring. It can be very active in BC politics, and it shouldn't be hard to attract certain groups to support that nobody is above the law. Right now, everybody who is in power is above the law. Corporations are acting like, since they're the representatives of 1 million people, stockholders, that they have to be above the law, because somehow corporate law says that a corporation must do whatever it can that makes the most profit, no matter what. Now, I don't know who passed that law, but it was obviously some bullshit corporate lawyer who was insisting that they had to be above the law. Now, every corporate loophole disappears as soon as we do change the law from no one is above the law to nobody is above the law. Now, in BC politics, that's done real easy. There's what's called Bill 1, Act 1 of the Supremacy of Parliament, read the first day when they go into Parliament. And that bill sounds really short. It's really short and sweet. It's a very small, but you know what? That creates the corporation of the province of British Columbia that's listed on the New York Stock Exchange. And on that date, a whole new set of rules and regulations that are never printed, not available, have all been reinstituted, and they're all there to fix the loopholes and the problems they had last time through. Okay? So bottom line is, our structure in BC has it already there under the Act of Supremacy of BC, Bill 1, to change that we could actually return to constitutional law if we're voted in on the promise of doing exactly that. Now, all political bullshit ends. All corporate slime lose their giant loophole, which is they're all acting like they're bodies above the law. They've raped our the feds have stolen our post office. The province has given away our railroad. They've given away our ferries. They're giving away our rivers. They're giving away our other. It'd be a crime to sell it, so they're giving it away to what are public pirate ventures. They're called public-private ventures, but they really are the privatization of BC resources. And it's well understood we'll never get it back if we don't act soon. Okay? Bottom line is, it's fraud. We have a government that's built on fraud, and BC is famous for throwing out entire governments for fraud. I mean, like, the NDP were thrown out 8 years ago, and now they look like the only opportunity we have to getting them out. No! Prior to that, we threw out the Socreds en masse. BC has a history of throwing out entire regimes. And bottom line is, we have to do it again. It would be, in biblical terms, it would be Isaiah 59, where the voice from the West rises. Okay? And the reality is powers to be keep getting Egypt and Libya and all these voices from the West of Israel to rise every spring, thinking that it's going to start and bubble over and create Armageddon over there, and eventually it'll work. But you know what? I'm saying the voice from the West rising in indignation over nobody is above the law has all the markings of a Luke 11 prophecy where the Queen of the South and its people rise in indignation at this generation, which is clearly the wicked generation mentioned in the Bible. Okay? What can I say? Everyone knows we're in our end times. And the only way it's going to happen is for an uprising to happen somewhere in the West. So says several prophecies. And I'm saying that BC is West. We have an election this spring. And the Queen of the South is Hillary Clinton. Okay? She's the head of states of the United States of America. Obama is the chairman of the board of a world corporation that in our hemisphere runs under NAFTA. And NAFTA has been fully taken over by the Hudson's Bay Fur Trading Company, the original charter of 1538. And we really are all the citizens, all the people in North America are slaves of the Hudson's Bay Company, because slavery was perfectly legal at the time that charter was instituted. And it's, what can I say? We live in a constitutional mess where we're literally under occupation by foreign forces, held under de facto law. It's criminal. What can I say? I'm trying to form a party. I'm doing my best to get people active. I personally think Idle No More should grab onto this. And I'm personally promoting that women elders take seats. Okay? Because they'll be respected by everyone in the community as having level heads. And why not? It's called a change, okay? We really have to get rid of the lawyers out of Victoria because they're screwing us. They're robbing us blind. And what can you say? Show me a private enterprise that actually did anything for us like they said they would. Our liquor stores. A BC private liquor store is at least 20% more expensive than a regular liquor store. Where was the saving? Why did we have to give up these liquor stores when they are 20% more expensive? And it's a snow job. Okay, it's actually a snow job. We're being robbed by corporations, and it's because our province is a corporation. We're listed, the province of BC is listed on the New York Stock Exchange, and we, the citizens, are listed on the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. We're cattle being used as chattel to back the value of a corporation called BC Corp. It's criminal. It's implied that since we voted them in to uphold the economy, that they have to fuck us. It really is. We authorize them to screw us because we insist that the economy is the only issue that anybody wants to hear about. And that's perversion by the press. Okay? Our rights are being given away and sold out every day because of the press giving away and saying, it's pathetic. What can I say? Something's got to change. I'm trying to do it through Nobody is Above the Law Party. And it'll either work or it won't. Timing's great. We have an election this spring, and we can shake this continent into waking up to the fact that corporations have screwed us all. And we can fulfill the promise of returning to paradise on earth and goodwill to all men, where all people are equal before and under the law, by changing that nobody is above the law. Okay? And it's a very simple solution. It will trigger protests. It will do things. BC would find itself in a Icelandic experiment. Okay? An Icelandic experiment in justice where police would go to jail. Okay? Public officials would go to jail if they don't start behaving like they are above the law, which is how they can't operate without it. It's criminal. It has to go back, and the only way it can go back is peacefully, is through the voice of the West rising in indignation. And what do we got to lose? They're ramming totalitarianism, fascism, and mass murder of us every day. The government is the number one killer of its own people. Period. The 20th century proves that the government has killed 8 times more of its own citizens than have died in wars for that government. It's pathetic. We really are, controlled and manipulated by dark forces who are lost to evil. Just plain evil. There's no excuse for what they're doing, other than evil men did evil things so that good can result. And maybe they'll repent. I suspect not. But the game cannot continue. Thank you.